I just want to say before I start the actual review of this album that I respect the hell out of Mike Shinoda. Mike obviously rose to fame with Linkin Park, and throughout the past year, he's just proven time and time again why he is a genuine guy and somebody that perseveres, somebody that has heart, emotion, spirit, and is just very down to earth, honest, and raw with exactly what he's feeling. I've been a fan since age 13, and nothing's gonna be changing that. What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the debut album Post-Traumatic by Mike Shinoda. Mike obviously shot to fame in a big way with Linkin Park, that's his band. They've been together for a long time, but unfortunately, if you were somehow out of the loop, they are down a member and really struggling to find themselves over the past year or so after Chester Bennington committed suicide, taking his own life. That date is burned into the minds of many people. I'll never forget the call that I got at work, July 20th of 2017. The world shattered for Mike Shinoda, the rest of the band, fans all around the world to hear of Chester's passing and his mental illness that he just really lost the battle with. It's a struggle for Shinoda, but once again, I have to say that I respect the man because he came back and so did the rest of the band, and they played that show at the Hollywood Bowl. And what an impactful night. A live stream that attracted over 100,000 concurrent viewers on YouTube. So many people showed up to the Bowl in real life, and it was just a legacy that Chester had left behind, but they were honoring that. They were paying homage to him, and it was just really nice and heartfelt, genuine to see all of the friends that he had touched throughout his life, all of the fellow musicians, and people just coming out on stage singing these songs with Linkin Park. Now, obviously, that concert was very tough for Shinoda. He felt like he was gonna fuck things up. He felt like maybe he wasn't ready to do this, but he wrote some songs right before going on stage, and we got that in the form of the Post-Traumatic EP, and now, just months later, I didn't expect this so quickly, but here we are at the Post-Traumatic LP. And I have to say that this is a very therapeutic listen, not only for, I'm sure, Mike as he plays it back to himself, but I think that this is going to appease so many fans because it has a variety of different styles. Everything from songs that would fit in Linkin Park's discography to also maybe more Fort Minor type stuff, and obviously new advancements for just Shinoda as a solo artist. If I had to pin it down to just one word to describe this record and what it's all about and what holds it all together, I think that it's drive, it's determination, it's compelling. Whatever of those words you want to pick, that's going to describe it. The songs here, even though there are 16 of them, none of them really feel like they need to be cut. It doesn't feel overly long at 53 minutes, because Shinoda actually has a lot to say. Whether it be about Bennington's passing, his own ways of coping, or just life in general and where he's at mentally with his family, it's really interesting to see and hear the commentary. And a lot of the music videos that he shot for the early songs, like Place to Start, Over Again, Watching As I Fall, and even Nothing Makes Sense Anymore. It was really just Mike Shinoda taking the camera, directing it himself, doing something relatively low-key, but it also kind of kept us up to date with exactly how he was doing, and that's important. It's important to check in on the people that are around you, and I think that Mike Shinoda and especially his wife Anna were really just keeping him accountable. After Linkin Park's last album, One More Light, came out into the world, I couldn't help but think I missed Mike Shinoda as an MC. Hearing him rap, it was always a treat. I always loved that about Linkin Park's music, but there have been albums in their discography like 1,000 Suns where he didn't really do all that much rapping. It was more sung material. And I have to say that he really rides the line in the best way on this new Post-Traumatic album. In fact, here, I think his singing even gets a bit better, especially on some of these tracks like, obviously I already mentioned I.O.U, Nothing Makes Sense Anymore, and especially the chilling Promises I Can't Keep, which absolutely feels like a combination of Linkin Park's Living Things and obviously 1,000 Suns. I think those are influences that I'm picking up on and that fans will as well. This song is an absolute blast to listen to. you. A euphoric energy, something that's special because it's emotional, but it's also very raw, relatable, and personal. It could relate to Chester, but it could also relate to a myriad of things, and that's what makes it so good. Shinoda raps over a grimy beat on I.O.U. and gives us that taste of like commanding hip-hop and MC skill that I think a lot of us have been craving, and he really pours it out with some great lyrical content on this one. This track is super captivating. It just has a certain aura about it, and you just feel like he's in the zone hammering this track out in the studio, and you feel that passion. And that passion doesn't let up on this album. In fact, whether it be a sadder song or something more up-tempo or even angry like I.O.U., the track and the album in general get it done. Mike eases us into his mental state and where he's at with what he can handle on Nothing Makes Sense Anymore. This is a great way to look at things, and it's an eye-opening experience on this record. Now, we got this as one of the singles, one of 8, I might add. I don't have a ton of complaints surrounding this record, but come on, 8 singles? Are you serious? 8 songs out before the full length. I'll just leave it at that. Please stop. This is a fantastic song, and I love the melody here and just how the confusion actually does set in. You feel what Mike is feeling. And this track was clearly written early on in the process. We got the opening 3 cuts, and I do feel like this one is kind of his place to start, so to speak. Now, with that one obviously coming early on, I also feel like the next to last track on the entire LP, Worlds on Fire, came pretty early too in the writing process. This is where he talks about the year from hell, how his wife Anna helped him, truly was his rock, and nothing makes sense to him, obviously, so in this world on fire, he only needs one thing to hold on to. And it might sound cliche, but if your world is falling apart around you, you need that stone, and she was that for him, and as I'm sure his bandmates were, and many other people in his life. That's why he's still here now, and is back on his feet, performing and actually releasing this entire LP. Now, what's also interesting about Worlds on Fire is the fact that the instrumental is kind of shiny in a way. I like the synthesizers, even Mike's singing is kind of glossy on this one, and I do like that affectation, but also the guitars are just kind of bright in their tone, and I do like the stark contrast between what's being said lyrically and that musicianship. The 2 weakest moments on Post Traumatic come back to back, which is an unfortunate speed bump for those to be stacked like that. It's like when you're driving over one speed bump, it's okay, but 2 back to back, then you just start to get a little bit peeved. Now, with the first of those being Ghost, I don't find this to be a bad song, I just find it to be a little bit sterile, a little bit safe, and as Mike said, the entire LP isn't meant to be sadness or brooding. It's something where he's actually just putting out feelings, whatever they may be, positive or negative. And on Ghosts, I just feel like this is kind of a safe, pop rock song with some production that leans a little bit more towards, I don't know, I wouldn't say trap necessarily, but maybe some more modern hip-hop stylings. That's not a bad thing per se, but it just doesn't fit with the lyrical content, I don't feel like, or the overall vibe of what he's saying on this song. And then my absolute least favorite is the track with Flay. Now, most of you watching this channel probably know that I do not care for Flay at all. I can't stand her voice. I don't know what it is, but I've never been able to get into her, and this track, Make It Up As I Go, just feels like a Flay B-side to me, and I know that Brad Delson of Linkin Park actually did co-write this track, and I sadly don't feel that influence. It's a track that has kind of a bleak opening to it, a little bit of a low guitar in the mix, and then as it gets going, I just don't care for the contrast between Flay and Shinoda on this. Not a good matchup, if you ask me. More rapping from Shinoda becomes prevalent towards the end of this record. We've got the Grandson feature, which is pretty nice. I'm meaning to check out more of his music, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I know he just dropped an EP, so let me know if that's any good in the comments, because he sounds good on this track, Running From My Shadow. I think that Shinoda has a pretty smooth beat here, and it's worth noting that the majority of this music he either played or else wrote himself, and I do think that that's extremely commendable, as on a bunch of these tracks he just plays the bass, the drums, the guitar, he does the vocals, the rapping, he writes the songs. I always love it when an artist is able to pull that off, and he doesn't have a ton of outside producers, co-writers, everything like that, so it's interesting to see. And on this one, he does have a pretty smooth flow, and I do like that, but I have to say that even more so, I'm enjoying the track with Machine Gun Kelly and Chino from Deftones, as he adds in kind of a low, brooding vibe to the track that almost gets a little bit ambient and calm in the chorus. It's called Liftoff. I think that the lyrics, especially from Shinoda, get maybe a little bit borderline not so great, but I still enjoy the overall vibe and the slower pacing to the tune. I never imagined that there'd be such an earworm on this album, but we definitely get one in the form of Hold It Together. That chorus, I'm just trying to hold my shit together, he sings, and there's a certain sway to that song that really draws me in for repeated listens. Now, the closing track on this record is the final one that we have to talk about, ironically, and that one is called Can't Hear You Now. And I like how this is kind of like telling people off, saying that I will do things in my own time, I can be my own boss, let me make these decisions for myself instead of you telling me how to maybe either mourn, recover, or move on with my own music. And I like that, but it just gives me a certain sadness because this album is coming to a close, and I could easily hear Chester on not only this song, especially nailing the chorus, but on several of these, like especially Promises I Can't Keep. It seems like it was made for him, and it just gets me sad because I was such a fan of Chester, his voice, his presence, his energy, and just him all around as a person. And this album, Post-Traumatic, obviously it's right there in the title, it's about letting go in a lot of ways and learning to heal and learning to love yourself and everything again and to not feel guilty, and knowing that what you did was be a friend to this person, and that's exactly what Mike did for Chester for decades. So, at the end of the day, this LP is extremely strong. It's emotional in places, but it can also be kind of happy, rewarding, and it's a great listen. I highly recommend that you guys check out Post-Traumatic. I give it my highest praises. It will be linked in the description if you haven't streamed it yet, so do so. Me personally, this is getting a strong 4 out of 5. Really loving the majority of these songs. I highlighted a few moments that I don't care for as much, but still, overall, a great debut, and I hope to hear more from both Mike and even Linkin Park if they choose to continue on in the future. I have an entire playlist dedicated to Linkin Park themed videos, and that will include Mike Shinoda stuff as well, and other members if I cover them if they do solo stuff, so check that out. The link is right here. If you want to see another recent review, tap right over here. All of my social media accounts can be found in the description, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.